Okay, welcome to Spitbucket. This week we have our perennial guest, Stu Gregor.
I could be offended, but
you're hard to offend.
You've said worse about me before.
You've brought along a pretty interesting set of wines.
I brought some big guns along with me today. Yeah. Not just these big guns, but a couple of big guns here. The Trio. Hey, I'm no Rory Kent.
Oh, if only we could find someone else that wanted to come on the show.
I've got big guns. I tell you what, we've got a very famous trio of wines, which are actually called the Coonawarra Trio. You know them as well as anyone. Limestone Ridge, Pyrus and St George, being the three Lindeman's wines from Coonawarra that are having a bit of a renaissance.
They disappear. I mean, they were very famous in the old days. The release of any of these trio was a big event in the Australian wine calendar. St George was the one that sort of kicked off earliest.
Yes.
It really made its name when John Vickery, who was better known as the great Riesling maker of Australia, his 1980 won the Jimmy Watson.
Very controversial wine.
Well, at the time, Australian wine was going through this, shall we say, a period where the judging decided that we wanted to make our reds more like Bordeaux, and in those days Bordeaux was thin, green, weedy muck, a lot of it. So we thought, let's make thin, green, weedy muck. and let's
that wine still splits opinion. I had that wine in the Len Evans tutorial a few years ago.
Yeah.
And a couple of people gave it fantastic scores. And you know what I said? I said, that is the 1980 St George. It was so...
Look, it wasn't the only one. It wasn't the only. I mean, Merrill made wines like that, and he reckons they're tasting fantastic today. There was plenty of other people. But I was one idiot that ran out and bought as much as I could find.
There you go.
Went overseas for 4 or 5 years, came back and thought, let's try these wines. Oh, you're kidding, aren't you?
Haven't you matured?
Open a can of asparagus and drink the juice. And seriously, that's what it tasted like.
But we've moved on from there.
We've moved on.
A long way since then.
Mind you, I put them straight back into auction and got big money for them, so I was
And then the Pyrus, so the 80 St George one,
the one that has the Limestone Ridge, which is the Shiraz Cabernet blend.
Oh, it's the best of the lot. I love this wine.
It's a very popular wine. It's the great Australian traditional blend, the Shiraz and the Cabernet. These are all Coonawarra, of course. Then along came Pyrus. Now, do you know the story behind Pyrus?
Why don't you tell me the story behind Pyrus, Ken?
You're PR and you don't know it.
I do. It won the Watson in 85 or 86. And it's a Cabernet, Merlot, Cabernet Franc, 85 or 86.
What happened was word went around Lindeman's that one of the wines they'd put, because in wine shows you can put wines in, they don't necessarily have to be something that you already know at that stage.
So they had a Cabernet blend.
They had a what they call the Bordeaux blend, which is the Cabernet, Sauvignon, Merlot, a bit of
Cab Franc. You just had Malbec in it too, this wine.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was the blancmange of... and word went around that they might have won the thing. So they said, well, Christ, we need a name. Because we can't get up on stage and say, well, thanks for, barrel 85.
Right.
So they searched around that night and they've come up with Pyrus. And do you know what Pyrus means?
I do not know what Pyrus means.
Pyrus is the Latin name for pears, apparently. Because these vineyards used to be... a
pear orchard.
A pear orchard.
Did they?
Yeah, apparently. So I'm told.
John Riddick, I mean, there were a lot of orchards around Coonawarra at the turn of the century.
Absolutely, it was a big area for that, and so they called it Pyrus.
I reckon this is called Limestone Ridge because it's a big ridge of limestone going through the vineyard. I'm just having a go with that. What do you reckon? I think that might be true. I'm well informed, aren't I? Have a look at this.
Coonawarra is what they call a cigar, the Terra Rossa cigar, which is this sort of red soil and over limestone.
Thank you.
And it's shaped like a cigar. And there's a lot of debate as to if you grow your grapes off the red soil in the black, do you get the same quality? And the general consensus is no, you don't. You want to be on the red soil. But of course, when lawyers got involved to actually set the area up, then it went to custard.
Yeah, well, the lawyers will do that, won't they? Former lawyer Gargett.
Thank you. There are a few fairly prominent winemakers, without naming them, that actually think the Merlot in Coonawarra grows better on the black soil than the red.
Brian Crozer, is that what you're saying?
I didn't mention names. Brian.
Have a look at this.
Sorry, we'll get on to the wine.
I reckon this Limestone Ridge, and this is the first time we've tasted it. We've got the current... Yep. I'll tell them this stuff.
Right, sorry.
So that's the 08 Limestone Ridge, right? So that's Shiraz, Cabernet 60-40 pretty much. And then we're going to taste a couple of the older ones. So we've got the 06 Pyrus, because I think what this is, and then we've got the 05 St George.
Right.
And I think what it shows people is just even 3 or 4 years in the cellar can really improve wines. And this is the current release, the 08. Good, isn't it?
It's a very good wine.
That's a serious wine.
I've also seen the 08 St George, and I reckon it might even top the Limestone Ridge. I haven't seen the Pyrus as yet, but and nor will I today, I guess. But
well, I'm showing you the old one.
That's got such good length, hasn't it? It's got really fine structure. It's got that black fruits, almost that tobacco leaf character, cassis, and it just keeps flowing. And it's really soft tannins and great length.
It's a really beautifully made wine. I mean, obviously they've got great vineyard resources. I mean, Foster's as a group, or Treasury Wine Estates, owns more vineyard in Coonawarra than the rest of Coonawarra combined. So they've got the most fantastic resources there. And of course they have some wonderful, some incredibly talented winemakers down there. I mean, they've got probably the best of the lot down there. So
Who are?
this is, well, I'm not going to mention who they are, Ken, you know that. But they're all.
Did you forget?
They're all damn good winemakers down there. You know who all the good Foster's winemakers are down there. There's a couple of good ones at Wynns as well.
Sue Hodder at Wynns makes some pretty special wines down there as well.
But so this is Pyrus. So now this is an 06 Pyrus. So I think the point I'm just trying to show you here is what a little bit of Cabernet with a little bit of time in the cellar can do. Because the current release will be 08.
That's going more to that sort of herbal character to me that you often see in Cabernet. Or Bordeaux's, it's got that. It's not methoxy, but it's slightly herbal. Now that's one of those things that divide people, and it's also you go back to the link with Sauvignon Blanc, and you get that real herbal character there. So that the DNA of the two are not that far apart, aside from red-white sort of thing. But you can see connections at times, particularly if the Cabernet comes from a cooler year.
Cabernet Sauvignon is a hybrid of Sauvignon Blanc and Cabernet Franc. So there's absolutely no reason not to see some of those characters. And Cabernet Franc...
Seriously, you'd wonder with those two parents, how the hell did it turn out like it has?
But what you wonder, yeah, correct, but it's often the Cabernet Franc that gives you the greenness rather than the Cabernet, and there's definitely Cabernet Franc in this wine. But I actually think that's got that lovely dry tannic. I can see you going on this.
It has got it's dry.
But it's got mint as well. This wine definitely got some mint, and I think
black currants. It's more complex. I mean, the extra time's given it a bit more complexity. I mean, that's a lovely wine. I really like that.
Oh yeah,
that's got a bit more complexity. And for me, in time.
I think that's going to be
that's going to be a stunner.
That's going to be a limestone,
and
ridge.
I reckon
it's going to really.
Yeah, it's going to top that.
I think it's going to really impress people, that limestone ridge, because I have had a look at all the 08s, unlike you, and I think it is better than St George. Although you like the 08 St George more than the 08 limestone.
Well, it was line ball, but I did when I saw them both.
I just love the celebration of Shiraz Cabernet. I want them to come back. I mean, I think we all want them to come back in a way, don't we? Because Shiraz Cabernet Shiraz, it's so good Australian.
It's a real Australian. Don't look anywhere else. It's just the Aussie blend. I mean, it came about effectively because people trying to replicate Bordeaux wines umpteen squillion years ago, and we had no Merlot effectively, so we had to find something else. So we had a bucket load of Shiraz, so it was the obvious, and they do fit together very well, as does Merlot and Cabernet, but slightly different style. But the Shiraz and Cabernet work. In Europe, they throw up their hands because Cabernet's the Bordeaux
don't tell me they haven't been putting Shiraz in both Burgundy and Bordeaux for the best part of 2 centuries.
I'm talking legally. Which of course doesn't happen anymore.
No,
because the French winemakers told us it doesn't happen, therefore it doesn't happen.
No, there's nothing illegal going on in France.
Nothing whatsoever.
No.
Shiraz is, or the Shiraz they call it over there, is the famous grape from the Rhone, along with Mourvedre, Grenache, and a whole bucket of others. And so it's supposed to theoretically never the twain, but.
I think the twain sometimes meets.
Well, in the old days, Algeria was a massive, massive grape grower, and a lot of Algerian product would head a bit further north and may not have been labelled Algerian.
I'm not entirely sure how we got onto Algeria, considering we're looking at the Lindeman's Coonawarra Trio. It does seem, even for me, to be something of a stretch.
You're not being paid by Algeria,
no,
so let's move on.
The Algerian winemaking fraternity haven't yet met us at Liquid Ideas. It's interesting that Pyrus...
There were a lot of vineyards when I went through Algeria a few years back, a lot of vineyards.
Pyrus won a gold medal at Adelaide Wine Show. Now, the Adelaide Wine Show has always been one of the best judged wine shows.
You sound surprised.
I know you and I have both judged the Adelaide Wine Show.
I've never judged Adelaide.
Oh, haven't you?
I've never judged.
No, it must be me that's judged at the Adelaide Wine Show.
Walked into that.
Sorry, I always thought it was one of the really good shows. What are you doing? The Orange Wine Show, aren't you? Not that there's anything wrong
Macedon, Margaret River?
Margaret River Wine Show would be a fantastic wine show.
Except it clashes with the first test, which I'm not happy about. But
what do you think? I mean, when people are looking at gold medals on this, there's a big whopping gold medal right in the middle of that. I think you've really got to advise people that they should be looking as much towards the show where that gold medal's come from as anything else.
That's another discussion, and it's a long one, and it's difficult. I mean, if you've got a gold medal from the Longreach Primary School show, or you've got one from Adelaide or Canberra or somewhere, or the region it was made in,
It's fantastic.
there's a bucket load of difference between the quality of the golds, if you know what I mean. So it's worth it really is worth having a look and seeing what sort of show you've got and trying to find out. Then, of course, you start talking about, well, who are the judges? Because, I mean, for example, if you get top judges out at Longreach, you're sweating an awful lot.
There's not likely to be that many good judges at Longreach, are there?
No, but I mean, if you've got a bucket load for some reason, I don't know. Anyway, maybe suddenly people want to go.
Can I tell you, this St George 05, that is a crackerjack wine, and I think this shows you why Coonawarra Cabernet. That's just a 5-year-old Coonawarra Cabernet, so it's probably 3 years since release date. Beautiful tannin, beautiful flavour,
fine acidity.
Hasn't it?
It's it's the most elegant of the three,
isn't it? And
it just flows
that
through.
must have had a good, because what's interesting is it's a little bit high. I reckon that's a bit higher in alcohol, the 06 Pyrus. This is, I just noticed, is only 13%, but it doesn't have the green edge that the other one does. And I think that maybe that's the Cabernet Franc.
Could well be.
The Pyrus.
Yeah, could well be.
Isn't that
could be
good?
the year. Yeah, that's a lovely one.
Isn't that a good wine? Wow, Bumblebee. Sorry, don't worry about me. You just keep talking. I'm just going to have a little glass of St George here.
Oh, excuse me. It just shows also a lot of these sort of wines. Hey, terrific! You'd be more than happy to drink that today at the barbie or at dinner or in a serious situation. Crack a wine. Look at that, 3 years. I mean, that's not a long time in wine years. If you provided you've got reasonable cellaring conditions, because if you haven't, you're wasting your time. Whack a case of this away. Just 3 years and it's changed.
Short-term cellaring, I think, is a key. I reckon so many people drink their wines straight away, but if they were just to leave them for a couple of years, 2 or 3, particularly now they're all under screw cap.
Look, anyone who thinks wineries release wines at the optimum time is kidding themselves. I mean, some young whites, sure, if you're looking for young whites to drink, yep, that's fine. But they've got to make money. And while the wine's sitting in their warehouse, they're not making money. It's costing them money, so they're better off getting it out. So that's vast numbers of wines are sold way too young.
They're not, but I don't think they're sold too young. They're drunk too young. It's not the
fair
fault of the winery to sell the wines.
fair
They should
enough,
sell
fair
it as soon as they want. The 2009 Clonakilla Shiraz Viognier out now. Now, no one's going to tell you to be drinking that now.
Well, that's true. That's true.
But what you should be doing, it's your responsibility to put it in the cellar.
Yep.
And if you do it just for
That's a cracker, by the way.
2 to 4 years, it makes such an unbelievable difference to the wine. And I mean, for instance, I had like 01s right now, as we sit here in 2010, if you're drinking 01, 02s, now they are beautifully mature. I had a Cullen and a Clonakilla next to each other last Friday night.
Well, 01 is a sensational vintage over there.
01 Cullen Cabernet Merlot from Margaret River. Nothing again to do with Lindeman's, but and 9 years old. So I mean, it's not like I've sold them for 20 or 30 years, and they are absolutely in the prime of their drinking life today. So I reckon that wine, as good as it is today, that's the 05 St George.
Yep.
In 2 or 3 years.
Oh, it's still got time. Absolutely.
It'll be in its prime.
Absolutely. All these wines have got time to go. Look, running through them quick. I mean, I know that you might find these in restaurants, but you won't. Unlikely to find them in retail.
You possibly still can find them in a few retailers.
You might.
You might find them in retailers.
I'd be going. I reckon that's a 93, 94.
The St George.
That's a 91, 92.
Yep.
And that's a good 92 for me.
I reckon that's a 93, 94, St George. I reckon that St George has got a real future. I think that's going to be a wine that...
No, but I'm talking the Limestone Ridge. I've gone this
Limestone
way.
Ridge. Oh, you've gone this way, yes, of course. I think the St George is a beautiful wine too. I think they're lovely. It's great to see a famous brand, a famous name from Coonawarra coming back with some crackerjack wines.
Oh, that's fantastic. Remember, any comments, criticisms, thoughts, people you want to see, you want to get rid of him?
Yes. I think I've done my dash.
Yeah. Someone must have lost a bet.
Yeah.
Let us know. Drop us a note. Meanwhile, just remember, we spit, although sometimes not a lot, so you don't have to.
Thank you, Kenneth.
Thank you, Stuart.
I'm back on the St George. Cheers.
Yes, cheers.